store, Tobago. One woman is seeing the fruits of her volunteerism. We have highlights from a recently held Special Olympics, and an NGO is taking back its community one activity at a time. Nandini Villa is a peaceful 4-suite bedroom villa with a lovely pool and entertainment spaces perfect for families or large groups of friends. Situated close to the airport, beaches and major food hubs, it's convenient, all whilst enjoying the calm and serenity of the space. Now, one of the things I love about humanity is that we were all made differently. In this next story, we see how through sports we can discover common goals, ambitions, and of course, growth of a community. Let's go.
Special Olympics has done Trinidad and Tobago justly proud. We have represented Trinidad and Tobago for the last 40 years, including athletes with intellectual disabilities in mainstream sport. Our last outing in international games, we went to Abu Dhabi and we brought home in excess of 50 medals.
What a privilege it is to be here today at the Special Olympics Trinidad and Tobago Norma James Community Caravan Tobago Games. After a 2 years hiatus, the National Games are finally back, setting our athletes on the road to the World Games in Berlin.
The Chief Secretary would have recently gave a directive that every division across the THA, we must hire people who we consider our the special needs children. They are a part of our society. They can make a positive contribution. If they are able enough to go out there and win medals, represent TNT, they are good enough to be a part of the workforce and a part of taking Tobago forward.
Today, we celebrate inclusivity. Today, we celebrate diversity, that every single person with air in their lungs and life have a purpose in life. God placed us all here for a reason, and we all have something to contribute. The differently able, the specially able, the intellectually disabled, whatever you want to call it, as long as there's life in you, there's work for you to do, to shine, and to showcase the glory of God.
In this next story, we'll see the fruits of one woman's volunteerism after sharing her knowledge in the area of garment construction.
Sewing instructor Tess Mohammed proudly stands with the graduates of the basic garment construction course she facilitated for free in the Mount St. George Goodwood district. The sewing class took place from November of last year to March of this year. Ms. Mohammed is pleased that 15 graduates completed the minimal 100 contact hours and now have a valuable skill.
Now, a typical evening will be fully interactive with the never-ending questions, but at the same time, it was filled with playful banter, a lot of love, and great camaraderie.
This is a lady who used to evaluate people who are skilled, and they didn't have a certificate. She was that person that will evaluate you and now make you certifiable. That is the role she plays. So in order for her in retirement to give back to the community, she volunteered her services free of charge to the district of Mount St. George Goodwood. Thank you, Ms. Mohammed.
I was also very, very elated to see the pieces that you all have put together. And it speaks, of course, to the different talents and abilities and skills that we have in our various communities. And as long as we have the right kind of environment for that to thrive and develop, we are going to see these kinds of products.
The cloth is your canvas. You are more than just a seamstress with a needle and a thread. You have an opportunity to be a designer, to create crafty things that can be sold. And it might be clothes, but it might also be household items that people want in their homes. It might be curtains, what have you. But get down to it. See if you can earn an income from this.
There are plans to use this volunteerism model to provide vocational classes in other areas, all in an effort to increase the skills of residents. I'm Amadara Mills for Let's Talk Tobago.
EidCut is more than just house and land. The company has embarked on an e-incubator program. We'll tell you all about it in this next story.
EidCut's first e-incubator program had just over 20 small business owners thinking about their businesses strategically. They are grateful to have learned about market research and development, business planning, and pitch deck development, among other topics, during this 3-day workshop.
I want to expand my business basically, and the knowledge here would be a great asset to developing it in the future. So with EidCut taking the initiative, it really helped the small businesses and also the existing businesses to gain more knowledge moving forward.
I think this program, the incubated program, definitely has what it takes to really equip us to be able to pivot, to get new innovation ideas, give flesh to our ideas, and really to be able to execute it.
I'm new to managing, right? So I think that this would have given me an insight on how to promote the product, because this is one of the things that I think we are lacking, promotion-wise, also to get new ideas, to get things out there, and just to learn as much as we could.
We want to go through a number of different training modules, ultimately to get Tobago entrepreneurs, this cohort here, to be able to identify specific growth targets, specific sales and revenue targets, and embed those targets into their operating strategies, so that they are now operating on the basis of focused, target-driven, goal-setting business agenda.
It is through your passion, determination, and relentless pursuit of innovation that the entrepreneurial spirit in Tobago thrives. Together, you represent the lifeblood of our economy and the driving force behind progress.
This workshop, held at the Shaw Park complex, isn't the last of its kind. EidCut plans to continue assisting small businesses through mentorship programs and providing access to professional resources. I'm Amadara Mills for Let's Talk Tobago.
Guys, we have to take a break now, but we have more Let's Talk coming right after this. One NGO is taking back its community one activity at a time. Our cameraman Kevin Clark partnered with Josh Eldan of the Glamorgan Youth Foundation to cover this enjoyable story. Have a look.
So we only have a first place cash prize of $5,000, right? Which was sponsored by the Delancey's family in memory of Darwin Delancey.
Hey, 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 said I'm moving on up, yeah.
activities happening on a regular so that we can keep the youth active within the community. They won't get bored and look to do any crime or anything because mainly youths are participating.
Community groups are the organizations that need to take control of what happens in the community. And I am really, really happy that the Glamorgan Youth Foundation actually took it upon themselves to do these positive things. Now, I know that you had the prayer service, you had the sports, and this is just one of the many things that the Glamorgan Youth Foundation has been doing, and that is positive.
Don't wanna keep it locked up with all my feelings blocked up. I want you put your hands up and come sing along with me. I'm a con.
Yeah, everything going good and nice so far. But next time it might be bigger and better and thing. But for today, it's going good.
The vibes, you know what I mean? The cool vibes, you know, nice. You know what I mean? A nice build up around for the first time. Hope we get better next time.
It's been a wonderful experience. I'm here with my daughters and their significant others. I like the whole atmosphere, and I think it's something that should be continued.
Won't you hear me now? Hey, 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 I gotta let it out. Hey, 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 I want you to hear me now.
So when you hear Habitat for Humanity, you're thinking houses, right? Well, the organization is much more than that. Recently, they've embarked on a community agriculture project, and we have all the details in this next story.
Hydroponic system plotted on 300 square feet of land that would otherwise be unusable for producing approximately 900 plants, as you see it. Will not only generate much needed income for the development of Bethel, improving its self-sufficiency, but will also usher in a chain reaction for other communities across the Isle.
Bethel Village Council, along with the villagers, want to say thank you, Habitat, for partnering with us in constructing this greenhouse and supplying about 600 seedlings for us. Indeed, it's a good initiative for our community. We know that initiative will generate funding and to help in food production.
There's been a lot of conversations in this space about food security and agriculture. There is a definite need for seedlings and so on. We are trying to encourage the population to grow more, whether it's in their backyard or wherever. And so this is a useful project. It is a project that we have to make sure that is sustainable, and it is a project that we have to make sure that we can expand on.
And that brings us to the end of this episode of Let's Talk Tobago. Now, for more of our content, you can follow us on social media. We're on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, Twitter, and TikTok. You can also visit our website, www.tha.gov.tt. I'm Patricia Nicholson Richards, and on behalf of all of us at the Department of Information, Office of the Chief Secretary, Tobago House of Assembly, thank you so much for viewing, and see you soon.
You're watching Let's Talk Tobago.
Put a smile on your face when you're moving from place to place. Good morning, good morning, morning, good morning, morning.
Good morning, viewers, and welcome to the Tobago Updates morning show, coming to you here live from the Port Mall in Scarborough, Tobago. Yes, this morning we continue to give God thanks for life. I am Julian Skeet.
And I am Maria Richardson George, and this is the day that the Lord has made, and we will rejoice and be glad in it. Good morning to Tobago, good morning Trinidad, those of you viewing in the Caribbean, and those of you on the live. Good morning, good morning, good morning. How are you doing today, Julia?
Right, yes, Ria, it's that kind of day when you get outside and you see the rain flies and you remind yourself, wow, we are into that season.
That's right, and you ask yourself, is it worth it?
You know, because I feel like I was playing like a dodging game. Come out to the car, hang out my blazer, close back the door quickly because I don't want them to get inside.
Right.
Close back the car door quickly. But it's that kind of season where they could be a little bit, frustrating to you.
Yeah.
But we got to keep strong, folks. We got to keep strong out there because, we operate within the Caribbean, within this region. And it's either going to be rain or sun.
That's right, and I think by now we would have gotten used to it. Now, there was some rain in the east yesterday, as some of you may be aware. Yesterday was the Delaford harvest, so the day started off pretty much with some rain.
Yes.
And there was some intermittent showers in and between. So, and then by last night and this morning we had some rain. We had some more rain. Right, and we see today looks like it's going to be one of those rainy days.
So certainly we are out here with you, and we want to thank each and every one of you for continuing to choose the Tobago Updates morning show. At this point, viewers, we head on over to news in 90 seconds.
Thank you, Julian and Ria. I am Candace Jackson, and here is your news in 90 seconds for Monday, 29th May, 2023. Environmentalist Derek Hearn lamented the loss of business due to the construction of a connector road from Sherburne Junction to Stowaway Local Road. On Friday, the Environmental Management Agency successfully convinced the court to grant an injunction to stop the road construction because the THA did not have the necessary environmental clearances. However, for Mr. Hearn, it was a little too late. Hearn owns a 50-acre estate in Friendship with horses and an organic farm. He said construction affected his horses and created a dangerous environment for horse riding. He was forced to turn away clients interested in riding his horses. Meanwhile, the Tobago West MP, Shampa Kajo, raised concerns about the Farley Augustine-led administration managing public funds prudently. It came after the circulation of an audio clip in which voices resembling senior THA officials were heard discussing employing individuals, spreading propaganda on social media. Kajo expressed fears that the THA's budget would be squandered through corruption. She questioned how the THA planned to spend the additional $100 million provided by the mid-year review. She demanded Augustine be accountable and transparent. And nationally, the United National Congress intensified its cry for the local government elections to be called. The parliament sits today to validate the positions of councillors and aldermen between December 2022 and May 2023. The sitting was required after the Privy Council ruled that it was illegal to extend the term for a year and postpone elections. At a press conference yesterday, opposition MP Khadija Amin accused the Prime Minister of being unpatriotic by failing to announce the election date. On Wednesday, Dr. Rowley said a writ would be issued after today's parliament sitting for an election date to be fixed within 90 days. And that was your news in 90 seconds. It is back to you, Julian and Ria.
Thank you so much there, Candice.
Thank you very much there, Candice. Ria, very, very interesting developments continue to take place here within our Tobago space and even at the national level, ranging a number of issues raised there within news. I know many are anticipating today that there would be some references to what's happening in the context of local government. And then we see the new issue being raised in terms of the environmental concerns and response by the EMA in relation to the road that's taking place down there in the west. So we're certainly paying very close attention in terms of those developments.
Most certainly. As well, Julian, with regards to the political, what's happening in the political space, a lot of persons are wondering when we would hear from the Chief, Fali Augustine, on the issue of the voice notes that have been circulating. Persons are saying by now they should have, maybe had hoped to have heard a response from him, but still nothing.
Very, very interesting. Some are saying when, some are saying if, under the circumstances at the moment. So we wait to hear and to see what happens in that context with providing a response to the many allegations and concerns that have been raised in relation to this voice note. All right, viewers, at this point, we're preparing to head on in to our birthday shout-out segment, sponsored by Kia.
This is your birthday shout-outs on Tobago Updates, sponsored by KFC.
All right, so we get started this morning on our birthday shout-out. And I want to start by recognizing very good friend out there, Denicia Dempster. All right, wishing you a happy birthday, Denicia, and God's continued blessings. We trust that you truly enjoy the birthday celebrations. One of my very own May celebrants, Gemini at heart, wishing you a happy birthday.
Happy birthday to you, Denicia. All right, and we continue this birthday celebrations by acknowledging Antonio Phillips, and this is belated birthday greetings going out to you. So Antonio, lots of love from all of us here at Tobago Updates.
All right, and another one of my very good friends on screen, Patrice Jofield. Yes, the celebrations got off over the weekend, and certainly want to wish you a happy birthday and indeed God's continued blessings. Patrice, enjoy.
And we have Javon Royal Jackson. We know him in the space, in the cultural space. Very, very, very interesting artist here coming from the East celebrating a birthday. So love going out to you today.
Yes, sending a birthday shout out to Brian Thomas, wishing you belated birthday greetings and God's continued blessings. We trust that you enjoyed the celebrations. Doing some amazing work out there with the young people. I think it is Panthers in terms of the pan side on that end. I want to wish you the very best and God's continued blessings.
And we've got Adana Job celebrating her birthday. Adana, happy birthday going out to you. And lots of love from all of us here at Tobago Updates.
On screen, celebrating a birthday is Jason Kerr. So we're sending belated birthday shout-outs to Jason Kerr, wishing you the very best.
And we've got Penny Smith celebrating her birthday. Penny, have a great one today. Happy birthday going out to you from all of us here at Tobago Updates.
on screen, Anaya Wallace. And we're wishing you a happy, happy birthday, Anaya Wallace. And this greeting is also coming from our very own youth host, Kaylee Lewis. Wishing you, Anaya, a happy, happy birthday and continued blessings.
And this is Arian Henry celebrating his birthday. Arian, lots of love going out to you today from your family, Auntie Abby, Uncle Preston, and your granny Dora Lyons out there in the USA, and from Uncle Oswald and Auntie Rian family. And this is Aston Parks celebrating a birthday, all grown up Aston Parks, and this is the son of a producer here, Anton Parks, celebrating his birthday. Aston, lots of love going out to you from your dad, your grandparents here in Signal Hill, Tobago, your siblings, all of the family, and all of us here at Tobago Updates. And we got Elizabeth James Horsford celebrating her birthday. Lizzie, love going out to you today from your namesake, Liz and Ray Richardson, and from all of us here at Tobago Updates and the entire Open Bible Standard Churches family.
Yes, let me also joining in wishing her a happy, happy birthday indeed. And that's been our birthday segment. As you know, as we always mention, in the midst of, life, there is death, and we want to give a gentle reminder and an update to persons. The memorial and tribute service takes place today. The venue for this function is the Division of Community Development Conference Hall, and that's located in Glen Road, Scarborough, Tobago. So it's the same memorial and tribute service. This is just a new location, the set location, and it takes place this evening. And indeed, we continue to send out our condolences, as you would recall, that very tragic accident which took place, taking the lives of both Christian and Teresa. And therefore, we want to remind you, and this is open to the public, the memorial and the tribute service takes place today, Monday, the 29th of May, 2023, at the Division of Community Development Conference Hall. And it gets started from 7 p.m., memorial and tributes going straight into the cultural week. All right, so just a reminder to persons out there who may wish to be part of celebrating the lives of both Christian and Teresa.
All right, and just before we get into our rundown, I just want to acknowledge a couple of our sponsors this morning, Linnell Adams and Phyllis Grant this morning for accessories and hair as well. I was at that dance production that took place at the Shore Park Cultural Complex.
Across the floor.
That's right, on Saturday night. And it was a beautiful production. Anyone who was there, and mind you, it was packed, Julian. There was traffic getting onto the compound of the facility. At 7 o'clock, there was a lot of traffic. It was packed. Beautiful event, beautiful production. It was a really beautiful evening. Couple of concerns. Now, we know that you're not allowed to eat in the main hall, so there's the concessionary area. There were no bins. In fact, to get rid of the garbage, the females had to take the garbage and use the bins in the female toilets. I'm saying there were no bins. Okay, there were no bins, one. And there are no tables. You want persons to eat on the outside. In fact, there's a picture that I took of a gentleman who had his empty soup container on the tip of his shoes. Now, Dwayne Nurse has my picture. Dwayne, where are you? I need my picture. The gentleman had the empty container because he was also drinking something and he needed the use of his hands. So where else would he have had to put it? Because there were no tables. There was nowhere to rest anything. Persons were purchasing, but where do you rest your stuff? So women had to rest some bags on the floor. I'm telling you, this gentleman he put the empty soup bowl on the tip of his shoes to be able to use his hands freely. So I'm saying better needs to be done. When we have these functions and these type of activities, better needs to be done. So this is a call to Kernka, I understand, to ensure that these measures are put in place. Mm-hmm. All right? And I mean, this has been since the cultural complex was set up. So this was under John Arnold's tenure. So I'm saying here, between then and now, something should have been done, because I'm sure I'm not the first person to make mention of these issues.
Right, certainly a call out there to management to give consideration to these respective areas. And I can't forget at all, just to pause for a cause this morning for the benefit of our sponsors. Yes, folks, you would notice this morning I am outfitted by Checkpoint, and that is Checkpoint located at Upper Main Street in Scarborough. Yes, and if you're wondering about the extra this morning, Checkpoint said to me very nicely, but Julian, we're in that graduation season.
Right.
So it's a gentle reminder. Feel free to connect. They give you the guidance. They provide all that you require. Shirt, blazer, yes, and the fancy attachments that go with it. Just to ensure that you stand out. Remember to check Checkpoint located at Upper Main Street in Scarborough at 639-5148.
All right.
And we're heading straight on into our rundown for this morning, Rhea.
That's right. So we're going to start things off this morning chatting with Derek Hearn, and he is an environmentalist and owner of the Friendship Estate. And this morning, okay. All right. Well, the topic of the conversation, viewers, is geared towards the Sherburne Connector Road and Friendship Estate. So he's going to give us some more information on where things stand and some of the concerns that he has this morning. We're going to be continuing the discussion, Julian, with Joseph Jordan, Sergeant of the TTPS, and he's going to give us an update on the TTPS as well. The powers, he's going to explain to us this morning some of the powers of a police officer. We've been seeing so many things happening in the media with civilians and the police, and we need to have an idea of where we stand and where they stand, and we know where they stand, they know where we stand, and we all know where the other stands. And then we're going to wrap things up this morning chatting with Steve Peterkin, who's a teacher attached to the Signal Hill Government Primary School, and it's all about the school's walkathon and breakfast.
Good energy indeed. And I'm certain he's probably going to give us some highlights coming out of the recently held sports activities, putting Sir Peterkin on the spot very early. All right. Viewers, we want to thank you so much for continuing to choose the Tobago Updates morning show, coming to you here live from the Port Mall in Scarborough, Tobago. At this point, we want to remind you that this is your opportunity to share the live as we head on over to Tobago in Focus.
One of the major learning curves encountered during the COVID-19 pandemic was the increased use of innovation and technology to conduct daily functions. This major hurdle affected the country's education sector tremendously, with teachers, students, and parents having to quickly find ways to continue teaching and learning using these means. Post-pandemic, the Division of Education, Research and Technology is finding ways to integrate online and in-person learning and teaching, thus establishing the Hybrid Education Committee.
A committee was put together, made up of persons within the Division of Education, principals, parents, etc., a large, varied stakeholder group, and we are working towards developing a very pragmatic policy guideline to help us to utilize all of the positive things that we got through the pandemic, along with our face-to-face.
This new initiative seeks to reduce teaching and learning loss due to several factors, such as unpredictable weather patterns or another pandemic situation. From early childhood to tertiary level education are represented on the committee, with multi-departmental input and expertise from the division. Technical advisor from DIRTEC, Natasha Second, assured that this initiative is not just another talk shop, and the committee is well on its way to fulfill a seamless integration among all educational institutions on the island.
We wanted to look at all of the challenges and place a solution for each of them. So the guideline or the policy guidelines will meet all of the challenges that we could perceive of.
Ms. Second revealed that the committee, formed in April 2023, has a 6-month implementation deadline, which will include a pilot project in selected schools and the delivery of the completed policy and guidelines.
Morning, viewers, and welcome back to the Tobago Updates morning show, coming to you here live from the Port Mall in Scarborough, Tobago. Yes, folks, we have been, it's been in the media in more recent times, concerns regarding the development taking place in the Friendship area. on the Tobago western end of the island. And this morning we have the opportunity chatting with us, Derek Hearn, environmentalist, and the man that is said to be in the midst of all the happenings that are taking place down there. Good morning to you and welcome, sir.
Good morning.
And
How are
you know,
you today?
we have to certainly extend a very warm welcome. I think this is your first time on set here at the Tobago Updates morning show.
Yes, it is. I think you came down when we were doing Friendship Festival.
Right.
And did an outside broadcast.
All right. Excellent. So as we get the conversation started this morning, tell us, for the benefit of our viewers, where do you reside in that area in Tobago West?
I live in an old 350-year-old was a sugar mill at one stage. So I live in an old mill.
So we're told that you would have been awoken, on a particular day to the situation. So give us a little insight into what took place, and then we discuss some of the issues at hand more directly.
Mother's Day, I think that would be the 14th of May. I was walking around going to my horses. Then a gentleman came, banged at the gate and said they want to come to where the horses are. There's a little wooden house in front of my horse stables, which is also a heritage site. It's been built 100 and something years ago. And he said he was coming through there. And I said, well, not on my watch. You're not coming through here because you'll have no paperwork. Because nobody's issued me with any notice or any papers to say that you're going to build a road through this house and my stables and go all the way up to Killigwin. So I just said, no, you have no way of doing this because you have no permission to do this. He didn't really take me on. They kept on bringing loads and loads of truckloads of gravel to build the road. The police came. They couldn't move me. I then starts to realize these guys are really serious. But there's still no paper to say that this is what they want to do. In my will, that is very disrespectful to come to somebody who's been living in a property for 35 years and bulldoze a house or stables on their property and without giving them any due course of warning. I mean, that was very surprising to me. I mean, I've dealt with the THA before with other, I don't like to get into politics, so I'm just seeing the blanket of the THA, but it is one organization that have many heads, and they all change what they're doing. But you're supposed to be representing the Tobago House of Assembly. So when you make deals as the House of Assembly, you have rules to follow. We all have rules to follow. If people want the youths to listen to rules, they should follow the rules. So if the government is not following the rules, the people won't follow the rules.
Is this the first time you're seeing these kinds of efforts in terms of this, what is purported to be this road to be developed and some semblance of a road existing there from in the past?
The only thing I knew about was in 2008, they wanted to pull the high voltage wires there. My cousin, the owner of the estate, was alive then. She gave them permission to come into the property. I let them, they came and they bulldozed my orchard in order to put the high voltage towers. It's taken me 8 years going to TNTech each time to try and get them to give me compensation for knocking down a orchard that's producing stuff, but of course it's never happened. And then this guy turns up and says he's coming through my stables and the house will deal with it. And I'm like, no, you can't do that.
So your fear is that you can end up in a similar situation
Yes.
as 2008, which is now,
Well,
in terms of,
my compensation for them mashing up things that they don't need to. And I thought that was settled already. They were going to bypass the middle of the estate because we are a country that's going to depend on our history because that is how we're going to make a living. The oil and gas are gone. Yes. We've managed to disappear that and give it to other parties and stuff like that. It's always heritage for me.
So I want to ensure that we're clear where the road is due to pass in terms of the works happening now.
It was supposed to pass through the heritage site, the little wooden house, and through the stables. I stopped them going there, so I let them go towards the pasture. But I didn't realize how big it was a massive road. It's not it felt like a 5-lane highway that they was trying to build. As I think you've seen it, and it's really wide, and I didn't even realize that you could put so much car access near a high voltage wire. I thought you're supposed to keep high voltage wire from the general public driving, because in my world, and for what I've seen, is if you keep putting metal little tinted things, the high voltage wire at some point will take out one of them. So it's just a numbers game. So you're driving near a high voltage wire, it could suck up, fry the people in that car very easily.
The question would be, I know you mentioned, Mr. Hearn, that in 2008, they would have received the permission from the landowner, which is your
My
relative.
cousin.
You're right. Your cousin, who has since passed on.
Yes.
Is it that you are in the process, or you now currently have responsibility for this property?
For my part, because I've been in different parts of the property for the last 35 years. When I came back from traveling, I started to go. I fell in love with Tobago. I felt at home. It was my uncle's farm. He was alive then. I brought lots of visitors from all over the world. I got married. My wife took over the stables, which we're at now. And yeah, so 35 years, I've put my blood, sweat, and tears into that space. And I thought it would have been finished because Oliver in London was the chief sack then. I brought a big organic conference to the Hilton, one of the first ones, with the European Communion investing in organic farming. And I would not like to say all the things that I kind of go, oh, okay, this is not really happening, but it happened, as it does in the developing world, as we are called.
So as it stands now, I mean, prior to what we will discuss next, what's the situation? Is it that the work that has been done is going through your property, or it's going through the area that is nearby you? Just clarify first.
It's going through my stables. I've had control over the stables over 30 years. But if the politicians would come and talk to me, it would make it a lot easier. But everybody is too busy, because I'm a quiet person. I get upset when they start breaking things that they can never replace, and that's sometimes the policy of they're mashed up, and then they tell you they'll give you a compensation after. But that's not how things should be done. You negotiate and then give the people a chance to, with the horses, give us some protection. There's a road running through my pasture. I have very expensive horses, and we can't carry on business because there's a road.
All right, so thank you very much. Very interesting developments. At this point, viewers, we're preparing to head on out to a break, but have no fear. We continue the discussion this morning with Derek Hoon as we get a little more insight into what's happening in the area from his perspective as someone who has been living there for just about, as he has indicated, just over 30 years or 35 years. Or so. We will continue the conversation just after this break. So we want to remind you, viewers, that this is your opportunity to share the live, share the live, share the live.
From the experts that created the Zinger sandwich comes the KFC Crispy Barbecue Zinger.
The only one I see is you.
Cheddar cheese, crispy onions, the most delicious Kentucky Fried Chicken, and barbecue sauce. Get ready for a whole new level of flavor.
Are you looking for a place for your loved ones? Heavenly Care welcomes you. Located at Northside Road opposite Massey Motors, we offer a variety of services. These include doctor visitations, social activities, geriatric care, and much more. Contact us at 277-9595 or visit us at Northside Road opposite Massey Motors. At Heavenly Care, compassion is at the heart of all care.
Put a smile on your face.
Good morning, viewers, and welcome back to the Tobago Updates morning show, coming to you here live from the Port Mall in Scarborough, Tobago. We're just at about 7:28 a.m. this morning, and this morning we're continuing the conversation with Mr. Derek Hoon, residing down there at the Friendship area. And just before we went out onto the break, reference was just being made to about the hope of being able to have a conversation with the Tobago House of Assembly. Correct, sir?
Yes.
Right. At this point, one of the things I want to seek to get some information on. So you're saying clearly over the time period in terms of leading up to this project or even prior, there's been no such conversation in relation to the space at hand?
Yes.
And not even written communication, any sort of notice or anything of the sort coming to you?
Zero.
All right.
It's like I don't exist, so then that is why I lay down in front of the truck. Because I have done protest action in many countries, and that gets a lot of attention.
Yes.
Because people start taking you more seriously. The contractors don't like it because you're costing them time, and time is money. And that's what they're working on. They're working on a tight thing they have to get done. And the government people, they're bureaucrats, so they just pencil pushing, and they don't really take it on.
So it's a case of where you are and the property where the road is being constructed. It's bound with state land and the Friendship, the property that you own.
My cousin sold Friendship Estate was 550 acres at that time. About 150 of that is mangrove, and then there's the rest of it, which I thought, I've heard talk of housing, I've heard talk of this, but nobody is, because they've been trying to get me out of Friendship for a long time. My cousin, who is dead, bless her soul, she's got a sticky chance of her next cousin coming back and not playing by the rules that they want.
Just to be clear, who has been trying to get you out of the Friendship estate?
Well, before Janice died, she tried to get me out, but she failed. And then she sold the estate with me as the encumbrance. Me and Mr. Small were the encumbrances. Mr. Small was sorted out. When the PNM was in charge of the House of Assembly, they came around and sat under my almond tree and said, well, we have to sort you out. And they never came back and sorted me out. It just went on years. It's been years since I had that meeting with them.
So it's a case where there's even an unresolved matter for the paperwork in terms of you continuing to reside there based on the seal. How do you see it? How do you see it at
Give
at
me
this
my
point?
deed. That's what I see it as. I'm asking them to quantify. I've been putting my kids are born here. I bring people here. I bring lots of business. I've started things to help Tobagonians. I've had Tobagonians go out to the world and presenting a good face. We do a lot of stuff for the environment and the people that live around. I mean, I could bring lots of people who could clarify that I have helped, and I have always been a helpful person in my community. And yeah, all we need to do is talk about things, not just think that you can run through that. So if I was a small man that didn't have weight behind him, this wouldn't be happening. They would have just swept past here. That is not the country that we are built on, right? When we became a country, we had laws and rules, and that is for the government to follow and the people to follow. If the government starts making the rules, what do you think the people are encouraged to do? So we have to live by the rules that we all sit down and agree to. You cannot push people into things. You cannot. You have to. That is how you build a society.
So bearing in mind, and I want to get your, in terms of what would be your further view in relation to the judgment that has come, and we're looking at it
That
now
is a
from
temporary
an environmentalist. Yes.
Restraining. My question is, what happened to the kids in the orphanage, which is the next mill down the road? All through COVID, I've been trying to get the kids out of the hospital, the place down the mill down the road, to come to the horse farm, to get out and riding and stuff like that, because riding is very good for children and for everybody. But you have these children locked up, and they cannot organize them to move just down the road to come and sit by the stables. But yet, you're saying that you're building a roundabout where we have to see the plans. You cannot just, a contractor come and say, yeah, I'm building a roundabout there. The government give me money to build a roundabout. What of the people? What's happening from the kids that are living in the orphanage there? Where are they going? How are they? It's traumatic stuff, ripping people out of places. And you need to talk to them.
So do you, and you're saying at this point, even up to now with the situation taking place, that no one from the Tobago House of Assembly, whether it be technical officers or the politicians?
Because I started protests from the Monday, which was the day after Mother's Day.
Yes.
I was sitting there waiting for the House did come 10 days later with 8 of them with what they were going to do. They were talking at me rather than with me. They were telling me the House wants to do this. But the contractor had already bypassed what they were saying. They were going to knock down the little wooden house. And I was kind of going, well, that little wood house.
So you recall who it is came in terms of...
I have just suffered with a stroke.
Right.
So my memory is really, really
But was
bad.
it the contractor or officials from the Tobago House of Assembly?
No, it was the Tobago House of, after 10 days, they turned up.
Also, officials showed up after 10 days?
Yeah, because there was another program that picked up me protesting.
Yes.
And I think that finally they were getting bad press, so they needed to rectify it. And I said, you all have no permission to do whatever you're doing. I still haven't been served with any papers. which I still haven't up to now, still.
Based on what you've described as a situation here, Mr. Derek Hearn, and I know this must be very troubling because you've been there for such a long time based on what you have advised. Do you suspect that part of the fundamental challenge here is it has to do with the fact that, not having the deed and so on, and what you might consider, your right to be there without the necessary documentation, but at the same time, the authorities, but you're saying notwithstanding that situation, you were still waiting on the Tobago House of Assembly from even situations before to give you that same kind of comfort or confirmation in this space as others have received?
Any acknowledgement, I cannot understand how my cousin, who sells me as an encumbrance, and then some member of the house comes down to talk to me and say, we'll settle you. And then many years pass and nobody turns up. They just let me go on doing what I'm doing. In my world, that says that you acknowledge I'm here and I have my rights, which we all have rights. As if you're born a citizen of Trinidad and Tobago, you have rights. They cannot come and move you without giving you a notice, without saying, this is what we want to do. It's any person, whether I am a landowner or not a landowner, you have rights, and there's procedure you take. Otherwise, somebody could want to do something and pick up somebody and move them, and some get arrested and said that's kidnapping. Others get and said that's policing. It is just the argument in law. So maybe some police officers might be getting personal for stopping the trucks, breaking up the place, and the bulldozers breaking up the place when I did not give them permission to be there. Because it's all illegal. They've mashed up my entire pasture. My horses still running down the road. They've driven through my pasture, and I don't have no fence to keep my horses in the stables.
Yes.
I mean, my uncle, who's a big horseman in Trinidad, he was trying to get lawyers for me. But it's really expensive hiring lawyers to deal with injunctions against the government. It's thousands and thousands of dollars. So poor people can't stop certain things. I don't know what's going on there because I don't really know who filed the injunction to stop the road and get the EMA involved.
But as far as you're concerned, that's just temporary.
Of course it's temporary. That's how it
so
works.
your hope coming out of this, because we're just out of time, so we got to wrap. Your hope coming out of this is that they will come back to speak with you again?
They need to. Because then I will start protesting again. And it looks really bad because I have big following all over the world because I used to be a musician outside doing lots of things.
Yes.
And you can't treat people like that.
Understood fully. And we got to leave it there this morning. And folks, we're having a conversation with Derek Hearn, environmentalist, and we're speaking to the current circumstances and the situation. And he's giving us a perspective, even dating back a number of years, seems like a wider issue at hand in relation to the Friendship Estate. So thank you so much, Mr. Derek Hearn, for joining us here on set this morning. Viewers, we have coming up in our next segment on set here with us at the Tobago Updates Morning Show, we have Mr. Joseph Jordan of the TTPS, and that is Sergeant Joseph Jordan of the TTPS, and we look forward to those upcoming discussions as we speak to updates from the TTPS and the powers of a police officer. We continue to look forward to those discussions coming up here this morning on the Tobago Updates Morning Show. Viewers, we want to thank each and every one of you, those connecting with us online. We want to remind you that this is your opportunity to share the live, share the live, share the live.
This is
is how it's gonna go. They better look up below, 'cause this is your show, and everybody's gonna know. Say it to them once again. They better look up below. This is your show, and everybody's gonna know. That's how it's gonna go. They better look up below, 'cause this is your show.
Tobago will never be the same. It's coming strong, but it's tired. This little piggy is tired. It's finally here, Tobago. The adult-only comedy that played to sold-out houses across Trinidad is finally in Tobago. One night only. Saturday, June 3rd at 8:30 p.m. at the Shore Park Complex. Tickets available at advertised outlets. Check press and social media for details. Tobago, the Bacchanal Week.
Welcome to L'Image Parfait Day Spa, your urban oasis and wellness center. Our services includes massages, treatments, facials, pedicures, weight management, detox programs, and much more. Call us today at 624-1452 or 720-7474. Trinidad locations and Bonacore, Tobago at 273-7772. Let us treat you like the VIP you are.
Tobago Glass Supplies has been a leading name for over 37 years in the glass and aluminum market in Tobago. We provide an extensive range of high-quality, innovative aluminum and glass products for commercial and residential use. Competitive prices with superior and professional services by committed employees who are guided by rigid quality standards. Tobago Glass Supplies specializes in the manufacture and installation of glass and aluminum products that are essential to today's homeowners and the business environment. We are engaged in marketing, sales, and installation of a variety of products. These ranges from windows and doors to necessities such as mirrors for homes and vehicles, designed and manufactured in-house or imported. Put a smile on your face when you're moving from place to place. Good morning, good morning, morning, good morning.
Viewers, welcome back this morning to the Tobago Updates Morning Show. We are chatting this morning with Joseph Jordan, Sergeant of the TTPS. And this morning, Officer Jordan is going to give us an update from the TTPS. And we're going to be talking as well about the powers of a police officer. It's a very interesting topic this morning. Good morning and welcome to you, Sergeant.
Good morning to you. Good morning to Trinidad and Tobago. Thanks for having me this morning.
Always.
Police service.
Always good to have you in the program. So what updates have you got for us? Let's get into the updates and then we get into the topic.
All right. So as relates to our statistics for the year thus far, so we're going to compare January 1st to May 20th, 2022 versus 2023. So our SRCs stands at 317.
And our SRCs refer to?
Our serious report crimes, sorry. All right. So that is for the figure for 2022 as compared to 227 for this year. So we would have seen a decrease of a decrease of 90 less SRCs in this year. Our detection rate for the division stands at 26%. That has fallen drastically compared to last year's figure, which would have ranged around the 40%. So our detection rate has significantly fallen. Our murders for the year thus far, we would have had 6. Here we were able to solve 2, so that would have given our detection rate at 40% as it relates to murders. Our troubling crimes or total crimes remain general larceny, sexual offenses, and breaking offenses. So that is where we are as relates to our statistics. On the good side of it, on last Monday the 22nd, officers of the Moriah Police Station, kudos to them, I must appreciate that they did good, diligent work. They would have recovered one firearm, a pistol, a Luger pistol with 9 rounds. 2 persons were arrested for that in that instance, and other inquiries are ongoing in that matter. So as I said, we want to figure special thanks to the Moriah officers and the Moriah district for at least taking off one firearm with 9 rounds off the streets.
All right, and I'm really happy. I'm sure Tobago and our viewers are really happy to hear those statistics. Some areas of concern, but certainly we appreciate the information.
Yes, certainly. And we encourage the public to continue to feed us with that information, because we have to partner. And that is the only way we're going to get these firearms and these illegal rounds and ammunition, rather, off the streets of Trinidad and Tobago. So every firearm taken off may be able to save several lives, because as I always see, every wrong can take a life.
That's right. That's right. All right, so I want us to chat a little bit here about the powers of a police officer. You know, viewers and Officer Jordan, there's a saying, a local saying, that after God is the police. I'm sure that we've heard that after God is the police. Let's talk a little bit about the powers of a police officer versus the powers of a licensing officer. Now, quite recently, we saw licensing officers from Trinidad who were here in Tobago, along with other officers from here, from right here in Tobago, and they conducted road traffic exercises. And there were some persons who, can a police officer charge you for illegal tires? Can they charge for broken windshield? And all of these things, the powers of a police officer versus the powers of a licensing officer. So, and this is in light of the Motor Vehicle and Road Traffic Act, in light of what has recently transpired. So give us an idea this morning of the powers.
Right, so our powers, the powers of a police officer lies in several sections, right? I know you would have gone on to talk about the aspect of the road traffic accident, but let me just bring it back a little bit before we get to that point. Now, the Police Service Act of 2006 is an amendment, and it is found in our Constitution under 1501. That is what gives police officers to perform their duties, or give us the authority to guide us in the duties that we would do on a daily basis. All right? Section 45, allow me to just do a look good. Section 45 of that Police Service Act. The first thing they would have identified, a police officer shall preserve the peace and detect crime and other breaches of the law. That is A. B. May arrest, charge, and bring before a summary court a person found committing any offense, render him liable to arrest without warrant, or whom he reasonably suspect of having committed any such offense. And one more we'll look at, may summon before a summary court a person whom he reasonably suspects of committing an offense. And having read those 3 sections or subsections of that Police Service Act, it shows how we can do our things and what are the offense, what powers we have as it relates to that. Now, we often confuse that now with powers of arrest. Right? Although I will read, and it may sound similar. So the powers of arrest that is now in section 46 of the Police Service Act. Right? So a police officer may arrest without warrant persons who commit aggravated assaults based on a recent commission of a crime. That's A. B. A person who commits a breach in his presence. And I will look at C. Obstruct an officer in the execution of his duty. And lastly, which is also an interesting one, this is E. I'm skipping D. Persons found lying or loitering in any place and cannot give a satisfactory account of himself
can be arrested.
Can be arrested. And this is where we have the differentiation between our powers and our powers of arrest. Our powers is just the authority in which we are guided in doing our duties. So we have a power of arrest based on our police powers, if I could put it that way, right? So it's something that a lot of people may struggle with, and as it relates to powers of arrest, it has to do sometime with the recent commission of a crime. So in this instance, we are speaking about an example rather where you just saw a guy running down the road with a cutlass in his hand, blood on his clothes.
Right.
And you walk a few meters, you saw a man bleeding on the ground from chop wounds. The police now, reasonable suspicion, would assume that the man who we just see running down the road or just saw
With the
running
cutlass, with
is
blood
the
on his clothes.
most likely the person. So we can arrest that person without warrant. I will go a little further. The public or civilian, they also have that power of arrest. And they have that power of arrest under Section 1004 of our Constitution, where both police and civilian can arrest person for crimes that are committed in their view and crimes that are committed as it relates to recent possession. So you cannot go and just lock up a man who may have committed a crime a few weeks ago and take him without a warrant and think that it will be due process. In that instance, you'll have to conduct an inquiry, get the necessary information, and bring that person before the court of justice.
I say here, wow. I say here, wow, to that. So, as a civilian, we have the right to arrest.
Yes.
Once it happens within
your view, and recent commission.
Right.
And recent commission mean something happened now. You see a man running down the road. More than likely, he might have been the person. More than likely,
hey,
and this
stop
is
that man! Stop
right?
that man!
So that person can be detained and you could summon the police, or sometimes in some instances, some people will take the person to the police station. So those are the laws that guides us as it relates to arresting persons without a warrant.
All right, but with regards to motor vehicle, the Motor Vehicle Act, the Motor Vehicle and Road Traffic Act, can the police charge a driver for something that we might deem should be under the licensing officers or licensing division?
All right. So the Motor Vehicle and Road Traffic Act 4850 give both the police and the license authority the same or similar, let me just say similar authority, because the license officers operate under the same 4850, likewise the police officer. Right? In our instance, we often proceed, and both license officers, I should say, and the police, we proceed by use of our fixed penalty notice, which has gone electronic device now. The same offenses that a police officer would charge you for, it is the same offense that a licensed officer would charge you for. So we cannot interpret that same act in two different ways for two different entities. The rules apply to both entities. So I know we would have had that challenge in Tobago, and a lot of people was having a little it was a national issue, if I may say. However, the officers who acted within the law, and what we often ask for is leniency. And sometimes when we don't get leniency, we tend to, let's say, cry wolf. Right? But we must be clear that the law, as it relates to the Road Traffic Act, are within the reach, I may use the word, within the reach of both the police and the licensing officers. All right.
Now, there was a video circulating around social media quite recently with a gentleman with a van, and there was a bucket. He identified himself as a farmer, and there was a bucket that was in the tray of the van. Now, there's a lot of information that the public does not have, of course. In the court of public opinion, the officer was found guilty in the court of public opinion because this officer apparently was asking for the insurance and driver's license, and I'm not sure if the driver must have felt that he was being charged somewhat because of the bucket.
Right.
The court of public opinion.
Right. Matters like that, I would have to be very limited in my response at this point in time.
Yeah.
So how I am going to respond to that question or that concern is that, one, we have not seen the entire footage of that video, and I have seen it, and the guy with the bucket, or the driver, the alleged driver, what he indicated is that you cannot charge me for a bucket. No,
Right.
I did not hear anything about anybody being charged.
Nor did I mean I listened to the video.
And he also complied. He said I am going to give you my driver's permit and my insurance. So as I said, the comment, I don't want to comment too much on it because the facts of that instance is not clearly defined, because with most videos we only see certain interesting parts. We do not see the foundation of it. Now, generally speaking, a lot of persons are intimidated where they are stopped by a police officer and they ask them for the driver's permit and the insurance. And automatically, some persons become apprehensive and start to behave in an irrational manner as if they are being issued a ticket. Sometimes you may get a warning. Sometimes we are doing our routine checks. We are sometimes under our 1601, we are looking for firearms, persons in the instance of pre-deal last day. So that truck, that man with the authority would have been under the pre-deal larceny act, right? To check for bill of lading and goods and these kind of things. So sometimes the mere question this turn out into be a argument, and oftentimes this is where we end up in situations where you hear persons are being charged for resisting arrest, obscene language, because the initial the initial offense that was detected
is muddied by
those ongoing events that is not related to what you would have. So we often say, just comply, all right?
Okay.
And if you feel that you are being taken advantage of, there are redress. You have the police complaints authority. You can take your matter to court. If you are given a ticket that you do not think that you was warranted, you can take your matter before the court rather than end up in a confrontation with the police. Likewise, the police, we of ourselves, we must be able to be the first judge, and we must be able to control these situations and not aggravate it, because we may know what we are out there doing, but the public may not know, and not everything we may be able to explain.
All right, a question coming in from a viewer on the live here. Can someone in shorts and a t-shirt, tattoos, gold chain, and multiple rings on represent themselves as police by giving a command to another person without showing their police ID to that person and expect that person to comply?
Instructions to stop a police or stop someone in public, that person must be in uniform. All right. If you are in civilian clothes, how would I know that you are a police officer? Hence the reason we are given badge and ID card to present to the public when speaking with them. So if somebody is attired like that, it does not mean that they cannot talk to you, but they must identify themselves as a police officer. For example, if there's a road traffic exercise, we must have a police officer in uniform to stop a vehicle. There are not only, but there are very few people who have the authority to stop a vehicle. 1 are police officers, 2 licensed officers, and 3 and 3 a person who is crossing the road with animals. They can stop vehicular traffic. All right? So a person purporting to be a police officer in attire like that would raise some questions, and if the public refuse to comply, they have all authority to.
Understood, and I'm glad we got that out there. And can some, if we have a citizen's arrest, do we have a citizen's arrest in Trinidad and Tobago? And a viewer on the live is asking, can you ask if we have a citizen's arrest in Trinidad and Tobago?
Right, as I indicated earlier, I refer to section 1004 of our constitution, which gives civilian the authority to arrest persons. And as I said, we talk about the recent commission of a crime, and if it was done in your view. So the police and the civilian has that authority under section 1004, of the Constitution. So in simple terms, yes, we have what we loosely term a citizen arrest.
All right, well, Officer Jordan, we're going to leave it there for today, and I want to thank you for joining us. And I'm sorry for making you laugh on air.
Well,
and I always...
the off-air joke.
Yes. All right, so we've got lots more coming up this morning, viewers, on the Tobago Updates morning show. So share the live, share the live, share the live.
Everybody only worrying. Never ever worry. Don't mind how things looking hard. I tell them never ever worry. If your life can't get damaged bad. I tell them never ever worry. What I'm saying is true. So just consider Tatil is always right here for you. I tell them never ever worry. Don't mind if life make you sad. I tell them never ever worry. If your house get flooded out real bad. I tell them never ever worry. What I'm saying is true. So just consider Tatil is always right here for you. I tell them never ever worry. If sickness catch you off guard. I tell them never ever worry. If times fall on you real hard. I tell them never ever worry. What I'm saying is true. So just consider Tatil will always be here for you.
Never worry about a thing. Tatil, where people are people. You know what I mean.
Put a smile on your face when you're moving from place to place. Good morning, good morning, morning, good morning, morning.
Good morning, viewers, and welcome back to the Tobago Updates morning show, coming to you here live from the Port Mall in Scarborough, Tobago. Yes, viewers, in this final segment, we have the opportunity to be chatting with Sir Peterkin. If you know the gentleman any at all, in fact, if you've been to Signal Hill, Government Primary any at all, you must know Sir Peterkin or hear your child coming home mentioning that name. All right, we want to welcome you here on set this morning, teacher at the Signal Hill Government Primary School. How are you doing this morning?
I'm doing well. Thank you for having me.
All right, and just before we dive into walkathon and breakfast, tell us about the outcome of sports, which recently took place. A very engaging and heated time, enjoyable time for the students, I must say.
All right, so let me put the Uno reverse on you. What house is your child in?
And that's the green. That's the green house.
That's the green
yes.
iguanas.
But I'll accept whatever results that comes forward.
Okay, so the successful house was the Blue Marlins.
Beautiful.
They put on a wonderful march pass, and they would have accumulated the most points throughout the day with all the sporting events.
Certainly. Right. So congratulations going out there to Blue Marlins. Yes. What's really important to see is that the students had an excellent time.
Oh, yes.
In terms of enjoying themselves fully. Kudos also going out to Principal Devines, who won the teacher's race. I wonder which house those points went to. But certainly Principal Devines was at the front of the lineup, followed by, I think it was Miss Thomas.
Miss Thomas, yes.
Yes, Miss Thomas as well. Kudos going out there indeed at the celebrations that took place. So we're running straight on over this morning because it's nice to know at Signal Hill Primary, there's always something happening beyond just that academic growth and development for the student, teaching them about that very holistic concept. And there's an upcoming fundraiser. Tell us a little bit about that.
Okay, so what we have coming up tomorrow is our walkathon. And as you said, Signal Hill Government Primary is a holistic school, and most of our primary schools are. And we offer that opportunity to get in your physical exercises and expose children to different activities that would help them develop into well-rounded people in society. So we have our walkathon coming up. The theme for walkathon is HEAL, Healthy Eating, Active Lifestyle. And that encompasses the entirety of the walkathon, because we have the walkathon part of it where we start at Cove and make our way down to not Mount Irving.
Storby?
Storby, yes. We make our way down to Storby. But when we get to Storby, that's where the healthy eating part comes in, because it's also our breakfast. So as a school body, we gather at Cove and proceed down to Storby, where we have our breakfast sale.
All right. Tell us, who's the walkathon open to?
Well, the walkathon is carded for students and parents, but we encourage everyone to join in. It's a holiday, so we have a little time in the morning. You may want to sleep late, but you may want to get that activity, that little burn of exercise in. So we encourage persons to join. We're also walking through that western side of the island. So people come out of their homes and they join us because it's not just the walk, but what we're promoting, that healthy lifestyle, that healthy eating, that active lifestyle. And that is something that everyone can relate to. Because, living in these times, we understand that we have to take care of ourselves. And taking care of ourselves, part of that is that active lifestyle.
All right, so we're encouraging the family in terms of coming out and supporting the students. What time do you get started? Tomorrow morning.
Wow.
And I see our flyer up on screen.
Correct, yeah. So we start at 6 a.m. We ask people to gather for around 5:30. We start at 6 a.m. trying to beat that sun, but I know we're going to get a little overcast, so it's going to be a nice cool walk down to Store Bay. And added to that, this year we're offering a special prize. Now, normally a walkathon is not a competition.
Yes.
But because of our breakfast sale, if you purchase 10 or more tickets, you would have an opportunity to win a breakfast for two at the Magdalena Grand Resort. Now, you may tell yourself, Sir Peter King, 10 tickets, that seems like a lot. Actually, if you count it out, it's not really that much, right? So one for you, one for the wifey, two for the kids, and you know the boy child eating plenty, so you might have to give him a little extra, right? And then when we go to uncle and auntie, granny, grandpa, $10 is not enough. So if you purchase 10 tickets, you have an opportunity to win a breakfast for two at Magdalena Grand. Magdalena Grand is one of those institutions that contribute to Signal Hill Government Primary continually.
All right, excellent. And where are these tickets available?
These tickets are available right now at Signal Hill Government Primary School. So you can make a trip up to the school, go into the office and purchase the tickets. Now you can also collect breakfast in the morning, but I would advise persons, if you want an opportunity to win that breakfast for two, to take a drive during the course of the day between 8:30 and 3 p.m. and head up to the school's office and purchase those tickets from now.
Excellent. So you're being encouraged to come out and support. Tell us very quickly, Sir Peter King, where do all these funds go to in terms of the work of Signal Hill Government Primary, for those who may be wondering?
Right. So we have many different events that take place at the school, and they supplement these events. For example, after walkathon, our next big event is graduation. And, you know, graduation has become a really expensive feat, right, for parents. So we help subsidize the cost of things like awards, because we want to treat our children well. They have worked hard for that 7-year period in primary school. We want to make sure and treat them well. So we want to subsidize things like awards, certificates, pictures, things like that, so that the children can have that graduation experience. Also, sometimes there are instances around school where we need to do a small repair or something to that effect, right? So our funds go back to the children and to the school building.
All right, excellent. So we're just out of time this morning, and we just asked for the sharing of that flyer very quickly as we wrap this segment this morning. A reminder to all, it takes place tomorrow morning from 6 a.m. is the start time. You're going from Canal Bay Junction, so you got at Canal Bay for 6 a.m. to head on down and support healthy eating, active lifestyle.
Yeah,
the theme for this year's Signal Hill Government Primary School. And remember, against all odds, we're calling on students, parents, etc. You got to make that decision. Perhaps you're going to be me, that's the daddy driving the car while mommy and daughter walk, or mommy might be driving the car while me and daughter and family walk, but let's get out there and support. And even if you are not able to make the walk, remember you head straight down to the Store Bay facility where there will be breakfast on sale in the morning. Is it still going to be available, or tickets may be
Listen
finished?
to me, breakfast goes very quickly because we're one of the best breakfast sales that you could get out there.
All right.
I mean, when you taste the fry bake, you will tell me.
So the safer thing, folks, get your tickets today. Get your tickets today at the school in terms of ensuring that you secure. And once again, we wish every success to the event happening tomorrow on behalf of the Signal Hill Government Primary School. Viewers, we want to thank you so much for continuing to choose the Tobago Updates morning show. It is Monday. In fact, it is Monday the 29th of May. And it feels like a Friday because, yes, we want to send also our very best wishes and in recognition of formerly known as Indian Arrival Day, in recognition of the East Indian population here within Trinidad and Tobago. We certainly want to send our greetings and the very best to this East Indian community as you celebrate Arrival Day tomorrow. All right, viewers, we want to thank you so much once again for continuing to choose the Tobago Updates morning show. At this point, we prepare to head on over to Tobago Notes, followed by GMT.
Special Olympics has done Trinidad and Tobago justly proud. We have represented Trinidad and Tobago for the last 40 years, including athletes with intellectual disabilities in mainstream sport. Our last outing in international games, we went to Abu Dhabi and we brought home in excess of 50 medals.
What a privilege it is to be here today at the Special Olympics Trinidad and Tobago Norma James Community Caravan Tobago Games. After a 2 years hiatus, the National Games are finally back, setting our athletes on the road to the World Games in Berlin.
The Chief Secretary would have recently gave a directive that every division across the THA, we must hire people who we consider our special needs children. They are a part of our society. They can make a positive contribution. If they are able enough to go out there and win medals, represent TNT, they are good enough to be a part of the workforce and a part of taking Tobago forward.
Today, we celebrate inclusivity. Today, we celebrate diversity, that every single person with air in their lungs and life have a purpose in life. God placed us all here for a reason, and we all have something to contribute. The differently able, the specially able, the intellectually disabled, whatever you want to call it, as long as there's life in you, there's work for you to do, to shine, and to showcase the glory of God.
That was a production of the Department of Information, Office of the Chief Secretary, Tobago House of Assembly.
Tobago updates. Good morning, Tobago.
Welcome to Good Morning Tobago on Tobago Updates, your source for current affairs in Tobago, Trinidad, and the region. With the perfect conversations to complement your morning routine, I am Candace Jackson, and let's get started with the news in 90 seconds. Environmentalist Derek Hearn lamented the loss of business due to the construction of a connector road from Sherman Junction to Storby Local Road. On Friday, the Environmental Management Agency successfully convinced the court to grant an injunction to stop the road construction because the THA did not have the necessary environmental clearances. However, for Mr. Hearn, it was a little too late. Hearn owns a 50-acre estate in Friendship with horses and an organic farm. He said construction affected his horses and created a dangerous environment for horse riding. He was forced to turn away clients interested in riding his horses. Meanwhile, the Tobago West MP Champa Kajur raised concerns about the Fali Augustin-led administration managing public funds prudently. It came after the circulation of an audio clip in which voices resembling that of senior officials were heard discussing employing individuals spreading propaganda on social media. Kajur expressed fears that the THA's budget would be squandered through corruption. She questioned how the THA planned to spend the additional $100 million provided by the media review. She demanded that Augustin be accountable and transparent. And finally, the United National Congress intensified its cry for the local government elections to be called. The Parliament sits today to validate the positions of councillors and aldermen between December 2022 and May 2023. The sitting was required after the Privy Council ruled that it was illegal to extend the term for a year and postpone elections. At a press conference yesterday, opposition MP Khadija Amin accused the Prime Minister of being unpatriotic by failing to announce the election date. On Wednesday, Dr. Rowley said a writ would be issued after today's Parliament sitting for an election date to be fixed within 90 days. And that was the news in 90 seconds. Well, viewers, we are, turning to some conversations in regards to the politics. It's been heating up in Tobago for the last few weeks. So we have on with us a political scientist from UWI, and that is Dr. Bishu Raghunath. Good morning and welcome to you, sir. How are you doing? Okay, I think your mic might be off.
Yes. Good morning.
There we go. Good morning.
Yes. Pleasure to be here.
Great. Now, by now you would have heard about the voice note. And of course, we have not gotten the confirmation as to whether or not we haven't had that video, that voice note verified. However, there are some, serious things being said in that voice note in regards to providing employment for those persons that are willing to spread propaganda on behalf of the administration. Now, what are your opinions on that, Dr. Raghunath?
Well, basically, it is wrong. To put long and short of it, it's wrong. It is an abuse of office, political office. It's corruption in a way. So, in effect, if that is the position that was adopted by people in the assembly, then there should be actions to deal with and punitive measures to be implied on those persons. That is all I would say.
Is this a matter for the Integrity Commission to engage in an investigation?
Definitely, it is a matter for the Integrity Commission as well as the Anti-Corruption Bureau to determine whether or not, well, first of all, somebody has to verify the voice note, whether it is true or not, and whether it is, we are into this age where fake items are always circulated on social media, so we don't know. Once it could be verified, well, then it becomes a matter now for the police, because this is abuse of office, as well as for the Integrity Commission. So those are the institutions that will have to be called into action once we can verify that those voice notes are true.
And then what about the consequences? If found guilty, what kind of consequences are we looking at? Is it prison time, fines?
Well, again, that would depend upon what charges are being laid. We don't know what charges are being laid, if at all any. So that's the context in which we have now to wait until we go forward. And first of all, so there are various steps to be taken. One, you have to verify the voice notes. We have had no, as far as I'm aware, there's no admission that these voice notes belong to the people who are being accused of being participants in that voice note. So there's no admission. So the question now is, how do we move to that second stage where we now verify that it is them? Where's the information coming from? Who's going to do it? All of these things need to be answered before we move forward. Only when we have a clear indication that this is a verified voice note coming from the individuals who are being named, well, then we could then call into the police and so forth. But, well, to deal with that abuse of office. But for the present, we need now to deal with the whole issue of verifying the voice notes and taking it forward.
Now, Dr. Raghunath, this faux pas is the latest in a series of faux pas that happened, that was committed by the administration. What are your opinions so far? We're just almost, a year and a half into the administration, and there's been quite a few mistakes being made. So, what is your opinion on the level of governance that this team has been able to provide for Tobago?
All right. So I would speak generally on the level of governance, not necessarily about this last issue, because, as I said, we have not verified that this is an issue related to the members of the THA. But for all intents and purposes, let's talk about level of governance. The level of governance is something that has always been a challenge for us in Trinidad and Tobago. And what we are seeing here is simply the continuation, that there is that challenge where there's lack of transparency, lack of accountability, and integrity in how we do things. Ethics and integrity are missing. And that is one of the concerns that we will have as we move forward in trying to resolve several of these challenges. Because for all intents and purposes, when you look at where we are in governance, it's falling short of what we need to be at. And in that context, clearly those who are seeking political office should at least have better ideals and go forward. Now, I sit here as chairman of the Council for Responsible Political Behavior. Before the last elections in Tobago, I was there getting several members of the various political parties to sign on to the code. Now, the code does not exist. Maybe I should say the code does not exist, but rather the monitoring of the code at this point in time does not exist in Tobago because we are out of the election period. But the principles enunciated in that code are the principles which clearly the members of the THA should attempt to follow because they signed on to it. Mr. Augustine was the one who signed on prior to the election, and we would hope that he and his party would do so. We also know that, for instance, even before the last election, he talked about a social contract. And these are all elements by which we should now try to get the political parties that are in office and even those who are seeking office to strive to and to follow and to vigorously defend. And that is something that we as a citizenry must now demand of our leaders, that they abide by certain codes of conduct, they abide by certain levels of ethics and integrity, accountability and transparency. We have to demand that of them. And when they are falling short, then they have a political price to be paid. And we have to make sure that they pay that political price.
Now there is a challenge from that, from the administration that said that they are faced with a lot of persons within the public service that hold to the whole allegiances to the previous political administration, and that has challenged them in the way that they have been able to perform. What do you say to that argument? Is that fair? Can they can they use it as an excuse for some of the reasons why they have not been able to do what they promised to do?
Well, that is always an issue, regardless of whichever government you talk about, whichever administration you're talking about. Once a new administration comes into office, they have to deal with persons from previous administrations or supporters of the previous administration trying to undermine their plans and proposals as they move forward. But the point about it is that, yes, that is something that is par for the course. You have to understand that you're going to expect that. It is just like reform in the public sector. You have to expect resistance. So resistance is one thing that you cannot deny. Having said that, however, you must be able to find mechanisms and vehicles by which you could move around those resistance. Now, and you must do so, and this is the key point, do so within the context of the law, not outside the law, as we may have it may be suggested that they were attempting to do, based if these voice notes are proven to be true. So they must work within the law, and yes, there is that concern. In many instances, for instance, we have seen where various contract employees are being employed to make sure that they don't undermine the work of the administration. That may be something that the THAS administration may want to consider. I don't know whether they want to set up special purposes, companies, and so forth. All of these things to make sure that they get their program underway. But yes, it is a legitimate concern, but it is not an excuse for non-delivery.
And finally, Dr. Raghunath, just as we're wrapping up, is there any chance for recovery from the situation that the Fale-Augustin-led administration finds themselves in?
Well, bear in mind that the administration is just a year and a bit in office, a year and a half. That means they have 2.5 more years before the next election. When, for instance, they all resigned as part of the PDP and came into office as a part of the whole process of independence, there was also that concern. Should they go out of office now and all of those things? Now, our concern here is simply one which says they could very well sit in office for the next 2.5 years and try to do all that they can to redeem themselves. Whether they will succeed in the eyes of the electorate, that we'll have to really wait and see. But again, it is for them now to perform and perform to the best of their ability so that they could have some degree of support from the population, notwithstanding all the various faux pas and mistakes and missteps that they may have taken in the last year and a half.
All right, I want to thank you so much, Dr. Raghunath, for sharing your views and your critical analysis on this situation here that's unfolding in Tobago.
It's been my pleasure.
All right, well, viewers, so we're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, more conversations.
Tobago will never be the same. It's coming strong, but it's tired. This little piggy is tired. It's finally here, Tobago. The adult-only comedy that played to sold-out houses across Trinidad is finally in Tobago. One night only. Saturday, June 3rd at 8:30 p.m. at the Shore Park Complex. Tickets available at advertised outlets. Check press and social media for details. Tobago, the Bacchanal Week.
MI4 Security Services Company is the most advanced security service in Tobago. Ask about our cash and transit service. It's safe, risk-free, reliable, and timely. We provide safe banking delivery for all business types and sizes with highly trained staff, 24/7 monitoring, coordinated emergency response, and a well-maintained fleet of armored vehicles. Contact us at 660-7723 or visit our website at www.mi4securitytt.com to sign up today.
Tapicom. Welcome to the future. The only card you will need in a new world. Digital business cards. Safe, hassle-free. The future is here. Tapicom. New generation digital transfer. Digital time clock cards. Digital attendance cards. Air tags. Customized designs. Digital clothing tags. Digital pet tags. Tapicom. The future is here. Contact us today.
Yeah. Hey.
Tobago updates. Good morning, Tobago. Wake up with Candace.
Welcome back to Good Morning Tobago on Tobago Updates. Well, viewers, we are continuing our conversations in politics. Like I said earlier, Tobago has been heating up quite a bit for the last few weeks. So to give us his perspective, we have economist and political analyst Dr. Vanus James on set with us. Good morning and welcome to you, sir. How are you?
Morning, Candace. I'm doing all right. How are you?
I am great. So, Dr. Vanus James, now getting straight into the conversation, what are your opinions? How do you feel about this latest incident where there's a voice note circulating that has voices resembling that of senior THA officials speaking about hiring persons willing to spread propaganda for the current administration?
With public funds.
With public funds.
That's worrying, isn't it? I mean, if this voice note is authentic, that sounds to me like bordering on conspiracy to misuse, even defraud the public, because the intent is to use this for your own personal gain and profit. Any way you do that, whether it's for your political party or for your home, that's breaking the law. So it's, for me, it borders on frightening the amount of incompetence that is being displayed by the government we've put in power and that I campaigned to use to remove the PNM for displaying very similar kinds of behaviors bordering on rampant and rank corruption. And I am persuaded that we have long passed the time when we should remove these people from office. But to do that, change the system so no government we put in power from henceforth could engage in this kind of behavior without clear, continuous scrutiny and oversight by elected legislators. This is completely unacceptable. It's doing no good for Tobago, for our reputation, for our development prospects. It's not doing anything for us other than to distract the society and remove the confidence of Tobagonians in the government that we fought for 40-some years to put in power to do our business, not our personal business, our collective business. This is completely unacceptable. It's time for these guys to go.
Now, if there was a situation where they wanted to make sure that there was more positive news or more information coming out of the administration about what they've been doing, which they are entitled to do, what should have been the best way to go about it? Or what should be the best way to go about it?
Well, first of all, nothing I heard in that video points in the direction you're talking about. If the government has information that it wants to share with the public, there are many ways you could do that. One is you could use your information division. There's nothing to stop the Prime Minister from the Chief Secretary from having a press secretary who could put out information on behalf of the government. It's done all over the world. There are proper channels, in other words. You don't need to use public funds to build propaganda to support your political initiatives, which is essentially what the video is saying. So do it through the proper channels. We have a department, a division for information sharing and so on. You have all your divisions that can talk to the public about what they're doing. But this signals the absence of proper designs in the THA to communicate properly with the public, to hear what the public has to say, and to share information about what you and the public servants are proposing on our behalf. It's the absence of that design in the THA that underlies this business of turning angels into devils that we are seeing going on in this THA.
Now, if this video is verified, does it also call into question all the hiring practices done by this present administration over the past year and a half?
Absolutely. It calls into question the entire arrangement we have under which the Executive Council is able to spend our money without oversight. That's the real thing. You could do these things with the assumption that there's no system available to the people of Tobago to continually monitor what you're doing. It's not just this, you know. Remember, that's the same thing with the $65 million road down the airport. It's the same thing with the deals with business people contracting for a decade or more on rentals. It's the same with respect to land distribution and the general performance of the government that we, the people of Tobago, ought to be able to scrutinize. It's the same thing with respect to the conduct of our business with respect to budgeting. It's another couple of weeks before this THA puts a budget before the people of Tobago and the nation. There is no opportunity for the people of Tobago to examine it before they act on our behalf, before they try to make law on our behalf. This is, as I said, a system that clearly allows the executive of angels to turn into an executive of devils. And it is time for the people of Tobago to wake up and change it so no government could do what these guys are doing or anything like it.
There's been no shortage of advice coming for this present assembly from persons like yourself, persons with lots of experience like Mr. Ho Choi Charles and so on. Yet they seem to not be making decisions based on that advice. They seem to be following
because
a different...
they don't have to. There's nothing to force them. The promise all of us made to the public was to put a system in place, begin the process, day one, of putting a system in place to empower Tobagoans. And from day one, this government has demonstrated that its interest is in looking after itself rather than bring the people of Tobago properly into the decision-making process. And it doesn't matter what advice they get from anybody else. I was told by members of that same existing executive council, this THA will not do the things you are saying. No, I agree with you what you're saying, but I don't think this executive council is going to do the things you're saying. And that was told to me back in April last year. Farley was saying to me, yeah, we're going to go ahead and move and do these things. But this member of the executive council was saying, this executive council is not going to do it because the law doesn't require them to do it. That has proven to be true. So from January to now, nothing has been done to push the constitutional change we need in order to set up a government of the kind that would allow for oversight of the executive council. And once we don't have that, once that new system is not in place, any government you put in power will do what these guys are doing. And consequently, right now what Tobagonians ought to be thinking about is moving with dispatch to remove them, but change the system as part of the condition for doing so.
Now, what do you think would have led to such a change compared to what we saw on the campaign trail and even what we saw as to their performance in the minority on the minority council? What led to that change?
The nature of power, the nature of the system is that when you get into office, I've seen it with governments across the region. Once you take power, you are under the obligation to do the things the law requires you to do. You're under the obligation to prepare a budget, you're under the obligation to run the divisions and so on. And they all come under this notion of pressure to deliver. That's an authoritarian system. It's me, the secretary, me, the chief secretary, who must deliver. It's not us as Tobagonians. So that's a fundamental flaw in the way we've set up our government. And it, as I said, it allows you to take any god you put in power and turn that god into a devil. That's the system of authoritarian rule that we have written into the law. It's the same in Trinidad. The Trinidadians are not any more comfortable with Rowley down there than we are comfortable with Farley over here. It's the same thing. You see bassa over the local government elections and all of that sort of stuff. An executive council and a cabinet that's doing what it will without regard to what we think, because there is no system to allow us to share properly what we want, what we think as a citizenry. We promised to do it. This government promised the people of Tobago to push immediately for the changes. Why have they not done it? Because when you have power in your hand and you realize you could do what you want, the greater temptation is to head in that direction rather than to put the effort into looking after the business of the people of Tobago. So we saw it ever since Robinson. We're seeing it today. It is time for us to wake up as Tobagonians and realize that they can afford to run the government that way in Trinidad because they have oil down there. But 32% of Tobagonians employed in Tobago are doing elementary occupational work. That's an enormous, I mean, in Trinidad, that figure is 18%. So we have an enormous amount to catch up to do. And we cannot spare time. We have no time to waste.
Now, what do we need to do to change the system? Because it's all well and good to say, let's change the system. But what needs to happen for the system to be changed?
Political effort. It takes all of us, those people like myself and others, or Choi, whoever, Reggie, everybody who understands the nature of the changes we need, to come together, just like we did to remove the PNM the last time, to come together and lay out the nature of the changes, lay out the design of the government that is required for Tobago to make progress and for us to prevent this kind of malfeasance in public office, and challenge the government in Trinidad, where they hold the lawmaking powers, to change the Constitution. You need to change the Constitution, change the various sections, Section 54, 75, 1, and so on, in order to afford Tobago the right to set up a government with oversight. That's the most fundamental change. That's the substance of autonomy that we are talking about. We need to press the central government to act on that front right away. That's a political act. It's about calling meetings, holding press conferences, doing the same thing we did to remove the PNM, and the same thing we will have to do to remove this group. It's always politics. It's always public education. Politics is just a process of public education to bring the people in whom power resides ultimately to become demanders of the change they need to make progress. That's a political act.
All right, Dr. James. Now we're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we're going to get more into this conversation. So viewers, please don't go anywhere.
Passion start to rise, the energy fill the skies. I say thanks for favor, to wake up and hear my neighbor. 60,000 people strong.
You
Looking for a place for your loved ones? Heavenly Care welcomes you. Located at Northside Road opposite Massey Motors, we offer a variety of services. These include doctor visitations, social activities, geriatric care, and much more. Contact us at 277-9595 or visit us at Northside Road opposite Massey Motors. At Heavenly Care, compassion is at the heart of all care.
Coconut's Cafe, the buffet restaurant that specializes in all your tasty local dishes. For breakfast and for lunch. Breakfast includes coconut bake and sada roti, served with chokers, buljoil, and sausages in tomato sauce. Not forgetting beef and cheese pies, shepherd's pie, macaroni pie, and rice in various styles. Meats served in a variety of flavors, garden salads, and pasta salads. All this accompanied by fruit juices, coconut water, your choice of a great combination to appease your taste buds. So call us today to order, as we are here to accommodate your busy schedules or if you are having a cooking day off.
October will never be better with Tobago Carnival fever. Okay, passage and come on over.
Tobago updates.
Welcome back to Good Morning Tobago on Tobago Updates. Well, viewers, we are continuing our discussions this morning with Dr. Vanish James, a political scientist and economist, and an economist within our space. And, Dr. James, before we went to the break, we were speaking about, some of the things that needs to happen to change the system. Now, I want to also talk about what's unfolding at Friendship. The Division of Infrastructure, Quarries and Urban Development decided that they wanted to construct a road to get to the airport, and they began doing so. And now that situation is halted because they did not have environmental clearances. I want you to speak to this matter because the concerns about EMA has popped up several times in this past year.
And we saw it with this bump they put into the sea right in the middle of Scarborough here. Same story.
But I mean, this one might be worse in a sense because there are wetlands, there are historical things there on that estate. And it's just been bulldozed.
A government that is inclined to lawlessness is a government we have to get rid of immediately. If you look in Britain, you see evidence. Once Boris Johnson displayed the inclination to break the very law he put in place over COVID, the British people didn't take any time to remove him. They didn't need an election to do it. Mm-hmm. When Liz Truss took the steps to destroy the British economy, they gave 4 months and she was out of office. Our hands are tied because of the structure of government we have here. But Tobagonians are not happy. Just yesterday, I went to visit a fellow church member of Fali. And she told me, she said, Doc, I am ashamed to be a Seventh-day Adventist if this is the behavior we're getting from our government. Hmm. Just yesterday. All over the place, people are recognizing that lawless behavior is not acceptable. It's not going to carry us anywhere. We have to put a government in power that is prepared to abide by the law. And you can't make your own EMA unless you change the law.
Hmm. And I want to speak to that because Mr. Secretary Trevor James has said repeatedly that, he does not necessarily need to abide by some of the things of the EMA, and then the EMA is unfairly targeting the THA when they never did before. Is he right?
But look, I don't think he's right. But in any case, it is inappropriate for you as part of the nation to take into your own hands the right to break the law on the grounds that you're busy, while making no effort, zero effort, from January to now, to change the law to allow Tobagonians to have lawmaking powers over these matters. It doesn't make any sense. Either you have to say, I'm going to secede, or you say, I'm going to change the law, or you're going to sit down with the EMA and work out how to proceed. You can't encourage lawless behavior, otherwise we won't be able to live here. When people decide to commit crime, you wouldn't have, as a government, any justification for holding them up on illegal behavior. A government that must be put in power must be the first line of obedience to the law they write. If you can't write and change the law, do the political work. Do the marching that we did when I was young to get the THA Act in place. Right? You change the law. You don't just go out there and say, okay, I disagree with the EMA, so I'm just going to go ahead and break the law. You can't run the society that way. Tobago will become a den of crime very quickly if the government is the leader in breaking the law.
And
so Trevor is wrong on that. I can say so, straightforward.
And then in this situation, we see that, we heard this morning actually from Mr. Hearn that, and he was one of the property owners of that, in that estate. And, he said that there was no notice, there was no conversation with him about what is to happen. So his business, his life is being affected when he has been trying to, preserve that area for quite a few decades.
That's right. And you see, that goes to the substantive point I'm making about all of this, which is that you need to have a mechanism by which the government, if it intends to do something, could bring it to the public, have the public reflect on it, and then you go and make appropriate law to reflect what you and the public agree on. Now, to be able to operate the THA that way, from January to now, you would have had to engage in a continuous conversation with the government in Trinidad and the opposition to get the constitution changed. So remember the THA law, the THA Act, makes provisions for Tobago to propose law. But you have to send it to Trinidad for it to become law. You need to be able to make your own law if you want to behave like Trevor and his crew. Tobagonians need to have an opportunity when you are trying to make law to weigh in and say, we don't agree with this piece of law you're trying to make, or we agree with that. Then the guy would have the right to go before the legislature and say, well, I have my property there. I want it for this purpose. I don't agree with what they're doing. And let the legislators we elect make a decision about what is to be done legally on a matter like that. What policy, what law. You can't, as the secretary responsible for infrastructure, just get up one morning and ride over people in the way Trevor is doing. It doesn't make any political sense for him, and it don't make any development sense for Tobago.
Is it hypocritical, given what happened with the situation of the airport terminal construction and the land acquisition process, when there was so much issues unfolding with that, and that was something that was done by central government?
Absolutely.
So I want you to speak a little bit more on that.
Same story, and it goes to the way we have to change the law with respect to the central government too, because they're not even within the framework of the elements of the 6 and 7 schedule they're responsible for. They are not supposed to be able to ride roughshod over Tobagonians. So we need a way to engage with the central government as Tobagonians when they are prosecuting matters with respect to policy and law in Tobago. It's the same quarrel with them as it is with these fellas. You cannot allow any government anywhere in the world, if you're serious about democracy, to take steps that you, the people, do not want. Now, you have this business of the central government taking over THA functions and building airport and moving people and doing all of that sort of stuff down there. And we heard a lot of rumblings, at least in the last campaign, by this team, and we have put in the THA here, against what the central government is doing, against the way they handle Tobagonians, cheering when the central government lose the case down there the other day. But you because of the absence of oversight in the THA, feel you are able to conduct this yourself in the same autocratic way. So this is a case of kettle telling pot, the bottom black. We have to get rid of a system here and in Trinidad, but it's their business now. Here in Tobago, Tobagonians must wake up now and demand that we keep the promise to change the law so that we could put oversight in the THA. Put enough people there who go there not to be in the executive council, just to be there to watchdog the executive council, make the policies, make the laws, finalize them, whatever the executive council proposes. We need a team of legislators whose job it is to make law and oversee and police the executive council. So nobody can thief for money. Nobody can act as any dictator, any king. Everybody must be subject to the idea that you have to come and report to the people, hear from the people what we have to say. All of those arrangements are now needed. And the reason we are having all of this abuse of power and this failure to obey the law is because we don't have that. So after 60 years or so of poor governance in the country, and in Tobago, 43 years of terrible governance, autocratic government, it is time for young people to wake up and say, we can't live like this anymore. It's dangerous for young people whose development prospects are dim as we go in now. And it's dangerous for everybody.
Now, Dr. James, I mean, as you brought up young people, now this team was a team of young people, of youths and so on. And we're seeing all these problems arising. Now, then it begs the question, at what age, at what level of maturity, at what level of experience should we choose our politicians from, our representatives from? How do we treat with that to make sure that even though you may be young and have some knowledge, you have the experience or the competence to be able to handle running a government, because it's not the same as running a business or a household.
There is no age. What we need is a system. You could put a 15-year-old to run a division if the 15-year-old is forced to listen to everybody else. If you're forced to hear what everybody else has to say, and you alone are not making the law. So the law is made by the legislators. We have to remember, we set up a government with two functions. One is the overall general function is lawmaking, but in order to implement the law, we set up an executive function. We need to have a sufficient separation between those who are conducting the work of executive implementation and those who are making the law and overseeing, scrutinizing, investigating the implementers of the law. If we have a system like that, then you could put any age of person to be in the executive. The legislator could be any age, because the legislature will operate in such a way that you could hear from everybody what all of us think, and all of us are of different ages. So age will not be an issue. And I don't think the problem with these guys is age. It's structure, it's system. It's the fact that they don't have to hear. They don't have to listen. And I was told that explicitly by one of them. We're not doing it because we don't have to do it under the law. Once that is the inclination, the whole fight that we had going for 43 years to set up good governance in Tobago, they've just basically abandoned that and they decide they're going on to use the powers they have. And we're all in big trouble if that is the attitude they have. Now, the evidence we have in front of us after 16 months is that is the attitude they have. So we shouldn't wait anymore. We should simply get up as Tobagonians, as a collective, work together to demand that the central government move to do what they promised they would ask the central government to do, which is to change the constitution so we could run an autonomous system here in Tobago and set up the system properly.
All right, great. Now, Dr. James, well, you have to leave it right there. And you said quite a lot this morning. And, maybe some of the things that Tobagonians need to consider as we examine our politics, because this matter doesn't just speak to one side or the other. It speaks to the whole entire system, how we treat with governance on the island.
Correct.
So, some words of wisdom. So thank you so much, Dr. James, for being on with us. And viewers, it was our pleasure being with you this morning. So how could you have a safe and wonderful day? Be careful of the rain out there. And we'll see you again tomorrow.
So wake up and hear me neighbor. 60,000 people straight.